My name's Monica Argandona. I teach in environmental science and policy. And a few years ago, I had the opportunity to go with a lot of faculty members from around the country to look at the Greater Yellowstone Ecosystem and understand what civic engagement is in a place like this through the eyes of the various stakeholders and the issues going on there. And I thought, if I could bring students out here and they could get these different perspectives and understand the importance of civic engagement, the importance of collaboration. These are our public lands, and they're super important, and they belong to all of us, so we need to be engaged in what happens to them.
This spring, I was one of the faculty chaperones for the University 300 Service Learning course, which went to Yellowstone National Park. In a traditional classroom, you get the experience of learning from lectures, maybe watching documentary films or other videos, maybe even having somebody come in for a guest lecture or somebody zoom in from Montana or Wyoming to speak. But generally in a normal kind of class, you don't have that immersive experience of getting out and actually doing experiential education.
We went during spring break and we were able to work with National Park Service a few days and also local ranchers and helping them with their projects. So the class focused on Yellowstone's, the Greater Yellowstone Ecosystem and issues with politics, wildlife, and just the general culture around the Greater Yellowstone area. We focused a lot on management and how to work together in collaboration with lots of people with different points of view.
And the other piece of that where the service learning comes into play is that if you have to work on a cattle ranch and you have to be a rancher for a day, you are going to have a much better understanding of that perspective. So maybe you're an environmentalist and maybe you hate cattle ranchers or you think you hate them until you go out and spend a day in their shoes, right, in their boots. You just don't understand it. Or maybe you don't understand how tough a National Park Service job actually is, that they have to balance the idea of conservation with recreation, their dual mission. And how do you balance 5 million visitors coming into the park? And you want them to see it because if they don't see it, they won't appreciate it. But then balancing that piece of how do you protect the park and those resources there. Being able to do all that and in such a beautiful place where none of these students had ever been before was just an incredible opportunity.
The primary part of this class was spent at Cal State Long Beach, where we went through different issues that have plagued Yellowstone National Park, starting with winter use. That involved mostly the use of snowmobiles and snow coaches. So we learned about that issue and we discussed some of the things that the government has done in order to remedy these issues. Then we moved on to learning about the issue with the wolf and reintroduction project. And that was one of the largest units in our course. And that is where we started talking about the difficulties and different stakeholder perspectives and how difficult it can be to come to a compromise that works for everyone. In order to kind of reinforce these principles, we developed a joint management plan as students. So we worked as two separate groups and each claimed a stakeholder and tried to figure out the ideal path for the management of wolves in the park. I think the hands-on immersive experiences that are offered in a very select amount of classes is incredibly useful for actually applying what we've learned, because in so many classes we can learn things, but once the class is over we kind of forget about it or it's not really relevant to our lives. Whereas in these scenarios we're learning about something and then immediately applying it, and it sticks with students better, and it's something that's memorable. 20 years down the line I'm gonna remember this trip and remember the concepts that I learned about and how important it is to manage stakeholder perspectives to try to create a better situation for everyone.
I mean, I'm already a bio major. I'm interested in conservation, like I want to be a wildlife biologist. But I definitely came away from the service learning experience with an even deeper appreciation of protecting national parks, like public lands, all the life within it and around it, whether it be wildlife or human life,
I think anything that gets students out into the real world is beneficial and important, and it makes teaching in the classroom so much easier because there's these connections that they can make now that they can't just reading and watching a video or listening to somebody talk. I also think it's really important that we all learn that we have to give back, right? We have to participate in our communities, in our world, in our environment. It's our responsibility. If we could all just do that, it makes the world a better place, not to sound cliche, but it also makes you a better person.